Hello and welcome to the Not Too Late Show with me, Russell Brand, a show that I've commissioned to myself to be in, where I can round up the week's current affairs from a spiritual perspective, believing as I do that without a spiritual awakening there can be no meaningful political or sociological change. This week we're going to talk about power, fear, Extinction Rebellion, and the apparent schism between what was it called? A loopy middle class cult. That's what Extinction Rebellion. I keep calling it Extinction Rebellion as if the real rebellion is against getting a conservatory or something. But I know it's an Extinction Rebellion. Obviously, climate change is super important, and activism in general, fantastic. The media obviously have an agenda and promote particular perspectives, e.g. this one. Taxi driver Jason Lempierre said that the Extinction Rebellion protests had disrupted his work around the city. It's disturbing everyone's daily life, working, travelling in and out of the airport, have a voice, but do not disrupt people's lives like this. There's a certain limit you go to. This is disrupting people. Did you watch that clip of that bloke on the Ryanair flight sort of doing a protest?
I don't wish to travel with you, but I don't wish to get off.
It is quite lovely to see activism embraced by what you would call, normal people, not as Boris Johnson claimed, crusties and whatnot.
My own team didn't want me to come to this event tonight because they said that there were some uncooperative crusties and protesters of all kinds littering the road.
The fact is, Extinction Rebellion is important issue. One could argue the most important issue, given that if there isn't a planet for us to live on, all other issues of social justice and inequality are secondary. There's the hierarchical structures of Western democracies come less significant if everywhere's underwater, say. But, most people, or a significant number of people, are living under such intense economic pressure that the idea of protesting about climate change would seem abstract. I'm speaking generally. I'm sure there are some people that are unemployed or on 0-hour contracts or in low paid work that are of course concerned about Extinction Rebellion. I'm just saying rationally and logically, if you are involved 10, 12 hours a day working minimum wage, trying to earn enough money to survive, to pay your rent, to pay your mortgage, to feed your family, as many people are. I recognise I'm in a position of privilege, even being able to do a YouTube video on this subject. Then you're less likely to glue yourself to a car in central London. Also, it's very difficult for all of us because we are all participating, like in the famous by now clip that Piers Morgan did, where he says, have you got a television? We are all participating in capitalism. We are all participating in consumerism. That doesn't mean that there cannot be dissenting voices from within it, because what option have you got in a totalitarian system? We are all domed by this system, so there is no option to protest from outside of it unless you sort of live somewhere in a commune in a jungle and then fly in, or I don't know, swim in or get a boat in to protest about climate change. I mean, in a sense, what I've noticed the establishment is very adept at is eliminating alternative options, eliminating counter arguments to anything that isn't beneficial to them or that doesn't enhance their privilege. Like when you watch like a debate show on Sky like this one, it's Greg Dyke and what's her name? Carol Malone.
I think the green argument is not being made. So it's very well Caroline Lucas standing up and saying, take fewer planes. But if you want to take a family on holiday, you're going to go on holiday with a plane. And this is the point. This is the disconnect for rational people in knowing what it is they have to do. And people like Extinction Rebellion aren't telling them what to do, and that's the problem.
To that point, Extinction Rebellion do have clear aims. Tell the truth. The government must tell the truth about the scale of the ecological crisis, declaring a climate emergency, working with other groups. Okay. Net zero emissions by 2025. Now, like what people will say on the right, or even not necessarily on the right, but people that oppose these ideas are, it doesn't matter if Western democracies cut their emissions because China and India won't. And then people say, well, China and India had their industrial revolutions later, so they shouldn't be curtailed in their pursuit of technological revolution. It's very difficult to create cohesive global change when people have identities based on nationality, based on religion, based on social class, based on race, based on sexuality. So like something as broad as Extinction Rebellion whose demands are a radical change in the way that we use energy and the way that we live life. These are real bold goals. And for people that are outside of what would appear to be the key demographic that support it, and I know 1,112 people have been arrested at the time that we're doing this, I would think that if a more diverse appeal is desired, then there needs to be a cohesive overview of how this issue affects all of us. Now, it's pretty clear how it affects all of us in one way. We all live on the planet. But most people are living within the parameters of a kind of economic tyranny that don't have the time or the option to protest or even really to care. It's very difficult, I think, like when the sort of rageful tone of that debate show lets you know where a lot of people are on this subject, that it's a privilege to have time to care about environmental issues, which seems like a ridiculous thing to say when you consider the fact that we're talking about something that's universal and necessary for all of us. But how do we make it? How do you suppose this information needs to be communicated so that people that would more likely be drawn to ethno-nationalist causes or more economically led ideas will be interested? I feel only if what's being proposed are radical structural changes to the way that we organise society. When I met Al Gore and he was talking about climate change from the perspective of his documentaries, it became clear to me that people aren't proposing change that affects the way that transnational corporations are structured, changes the way that governments do business. So I support Extinction Rebellion. I think it's a fantastic idea. Anything that activates people and focuses on the ecological realities of our time, I think is fantastic. But the problem that's been identified is that all strike type action that's predicated on creating inconvenience to draw attention to an issue risks and in fact relies upon the fact that it's going to upset people and create a kind of negative identity around aspects of the protest. Like when anyone ever goes on strike, in a society that isn't cohesive and communicating, a lot of people just think, why are you going on strike for? Fucking hell, we've all got to work. So the question I would ask is, how will Extinction Rebellion increase its remit so that ordinary working people feel personally engaged and involved with the cause and objectives of this movement that undoubtedly is trying to achieve really positive things? How can the cynicism that the media are able to exploit be curtailed and even eliminated? Occupy Wall Street was so successful because they were able to identify the fact that 1% of people were earning loads of money, that the banks were corrupt, that the 2008 crash was not dealt with even lawfully, let alone fairly or justly, and it galvanized people. Is the feeling that is across this country right now, is it in any way epitomised by what Extinction Rebellion are doing, in the same way that what was happening in 2008 was channeled by the Occupy movement, the foreclosures that were happening across America, the rise of austerity and inequality in this country? See, what's this country defined by at the moment? Brexit, a kind of sense of massive disillusionment around politics and mistrust in politicians and power, mistrust in mainstream media, a sense of decline and deterioration, people being overwhelmed by consumerism. I feel like that if we become enlightened, all things change. What do you mean become enlightened? Well, I suppose, in the way that Extinction Rebellion is identifying an ecological reality, i.e. there are limited resources on a planet, and if we continue to use those resources at this rate, we're going to use up the resources and the planet's going to be destroyed. to address other realities in the same way, i.e., we are all temporary. Our lives are temporary. The way that we identify ourselves is temporary. I'm English, I'm white, I'm from England. These are all temporary and often irrelevant factors. What I would say is supremely relevant is we're all alive, we're all going to die, and love is the most important thing in all of our lives. So when spirituality is excluded from how power operates, that's a real powerful political decision. The decision to exclude spirituality from politics is a political decision. Where else do we resource morality from? Where else do we underwrite the idea of oneness, fraternity, togetherness, mutual need, mutual service, love? Where else are we to resource this from? I'm not saying any particular spiritual doctrine. It could be from Islam or Buddhism or paganism, pantheism. I don't care at all. As long as people have access to the idea of oneness, access to the idea of love. Now, don't you see that if people are awakened and enlightened, service of the earth becomes paramount in a way that it can't do under a socialist or capitalist economic structure, both of which primarily identify the earth as a resource to be used by human beings in a post-industrial, technologically advanced society. A spiritual system regards us, the inhabitants of the earth, and the earth as one. Gaia, we are the creations of the earth. We are merely custodians, if even that. We've given ourselves that role. This is something that can be achieved from a spiritual perspective. Can you imagine, when watching that sort of panel show, they hint at the level of change required? It needs a complete restructuring of society. You need fully autonomous social units. Probably means the end of nation. Means the end of economics as we currently recognize it. New forms of currency. New societies that aren't based on what you do for a living and how you earn money. Completely new ways of distributing resources and wealth. And that's very difficult to contemplate and consider, and I think can only be done from a grassroots level. New systems, new societies, new communities, democratically run by the people that occupy and inhabit them. This would be my starting point. So, I think these protests are fantastic things, although I recognise the inconvenience experienced by that taxi driver. If I'd been on that aeroplane heading to an appointment or to see a loved one, I'd have been infuriated, I imagine, by the personal inconvenience, while simultaneously recognising the right and necessity of people to protest to create an active society. But what we need is continual, constant engagement in our society. Most of us go through life on a conveyor belt of consumerism and stimulation. If you're well off, it's nice stimulation. If you're not well off, it's low-level crap stimulation. You could be sleeping in a doorway in a sleeping bag doing smack, or you could be eating really, really lovely sushi and going to the opera and having a real privileged high old time. Still, the simple fact is you're using the external world to ameliorate and medicate your alienation and dissatisfaction. Unless you find a route to the infinite within yourself and an acknowledgement of oneness through all things, then I think you're in some serious trouble. So yes, Extinction Rebellion, fantastic thing, couldn't support it more heartily. So me, when I'm thinking about what I want to do, I'm very interested in moving straight to the solution, creating new systems, creating new communities, disengaging from existing power structures, new forms of resistance, i.e. not participating in existing economic structures and existing power structures. Keep watching this channel if you'd like more specificity, because frankly, I don't know barely any of the answers. I'm making it up as I go along. Now, why don't we have a little look at some of the questions I've been sent, recognizing, as we do on this show, the Russell Brand It's Not Too Late show, commissioned by me, to me, for me, at me, that I believe that a tool for spiritual awakening, such as the 12 steps, is absolutely vital for any individual. Why wait to be a heroin addict before practicing a program to awaken you? But firstly, admitting you've got a problem, coming to believe that the problem could be better, being willing to accept help from other people and to accept new levels of consciousness within or without of the self, inventorying your problems up to now, sharing the problems as you recognize them, sharing it with another person, admitting the faults, recognizing the faults, being willing to let go of the faults, drawing up a list of people you'd harmed, becoming willing to make amends to them, then making amends to them, staying conscious and aware of your new perspective, reaching out through prayer and meditation to a higher form of consciousness, even if that's only within your own little neurological networks, and having done all this stuff, living a spiritual life. That's basically the personal format that I'll be proposing for you and everyone. Sam Love, 41. What's the biggest lesson you've learned in life? You can't solve your problems through external material means. Ukulele Lala, being a people pleaser, I'm too scared of being judged or disliked. Yeah, you probably are. But what you'll have to do is what I've been doing lately, because I suffer from that as well, is I try to continually move to the awareness. Say when I'm at work, which I am at the moment because I'm being in a film, and being in a film is like you're in a lot of social situations all the time. It's small talk city. One of the things I'm doing is going, who is the person that wants attention in this moment? Meaning myself. I'm sure there are other people, but they've got their own connection with the limitlessness. What is it? Who is the person that's feeling this need for the attention? Who is this person that's feeling insecure? Continually move to the awareness. There's liberation in it. The real Ella Gold. I'm feeling jaded about spirituality and finding it harder to connect to the source as I get older. Ella, you've got to continue to revivify these things. Continue to look at new ways. For you, I'm going to suggest Kundalini Yoga exercises. Anyone that feels jaded, once you start that breath of fire stuff, you will feel some powerful forces rising up from your belly. Have a look. I've done a few videos on it, but there are certainly more qualified and better teachers than me out there. God, I hope there are. Dino.Rano, fear of girls after super toxic ex that resulted in a hard breakup. Well, maybe it's good that you have a fear of other people for a little while. If you see that fear is really an awareness, move into the awareness. Recognize that your previous partner, no other potential partner, can ever fulfill you. Recognize you have to find that fulfillment elsewhere, that you've probably been buying into the cultural construct of the romantic partner as a kind of savior, and as long as you're doing that, you can never be fulfilled. My relationship with my wife is much more successful now that I don't expect her to heal me, although I do, of course, being a bit of a codependent person, have all sorts of unrealistic expectations. But you may need to look at what you're expecting your partner to do if there's that much fear. Anik de Gladit says, it's actually Anik Gladgit, how do you transform fear into courage? There can be no courage without fear. Fear is a necessary ingredient for courage. The very fact that you feel fear, I got taught there's two types of fear, neurotic fear and wisdom fear. Wisdom fear is awareness. Neurotic fear is an irrational, continual, nagging fear about, say, for example, oh no, I'm going to die. Well, of course I am going to die. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I've put weight on. That stuff's not taking you anywhere, is it? You're not going to get anywhere with that. Wisdom fear is a kind of awareness. The way you feel, you transform that into courage. I would suggest sharing what your fears are with another person who you trust. And the transformation into courage, of course, comes when you recognize that even though you're scared of something, you are still going to do that thing. When you do something like that, even if it's like, I don't want to do this job, but I'm going to do this job, or I don't want to talk to this person, but I'm going to talk to this person, or I don't want to go to this gym, but I'm going to go to this gym. Whatever it is you do, you are overriding your pre-existing systems and becoming a different human being. Aguayo 94, scared to stop taking Adderall. I'm in vet school. Mate, well, get some advice on that from from your physician, and work a 12-step program, because we need vets and we don't want them out of their nut on Adderall either. Come on, mate, get some help. 12-step groups, I would suggest, and consulting your doctor about your sounds like misuse of Adderall. Tommy turns up. How do you build self-confidence and diminish self-doubt? Also, I'm a huge fan. Well, there you go. That's really helped my self-confidence. It's going through the roof, but the roof's not that high up, let's be honest. Self-doubt, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Doubt can be considered a type of awareness. What certainty can we have within this limitlessness? What certainty can we really have? So much is unknown. Basically, everything's unknown. Have you ever heard Deepak Chopra unpack the nature of the physical universe? You start to get the idea that no one really knows anything. Dark matter this, 2 trillion galaxies that. It's just too much to handle, really. So the doubt can be kind of awareness. How you turn that into self-confidence is, here we are, alive on this planet at this moment. You need to belong to communities and groups. You need to somehow replicate the kind of social systems that human beings are designed for on a sort of a biochemical level, while recognizing that we live in an advanced, technologically advanced society now. So how do we wed together the anomaly of our basic primal needs and the sort of peculiarity of our materialistic culture that doesn't acknowledge much of our complexity, either animal or spiritual? I would say the doubt is the servant of your confidence. Meditate on that, pray on it, old bean, and I reckon you'll improve. Christabel, enjoying situations rather than facing the possible anxiety you associate with them. Let go of trying to control the situation. Say me tonight, I'm going out, don't want to go out, but I'm just going to go out and I'm going to think, how can I be of service and use to other people? Starting with my wife, who wants to go out, and then other people I meet. Anxiety, fear, not in all cases, but sometimes can be regarded as a kind of self-centered self-obsession. Oh no, what are people thinking of me? Certainly in my case it is. So, no one cares. So, and as I've suggested to one of the earlier inquiries, the fact that you're willing to do something even though you are afraid of it is one of the ways that you can monitor and register your growth. Mary Sunshine, being totally myself and then regretting it and recoiling. This is natural. We're not going to fully transcend and emerge into our new identities overnight. Old Lord Krishna there would tell you in a heartbeat, were he able to, and perhaps he is if he is the limitless oneness. Any of us are doing and communicating within this oneness continually. Separateness itself an illusion, because of course we breathe the same air, and the air goes into the lungs and then into the blood, and we exhale, and on it goes, this limitless exchange of chemicals and matter. We just don't know nothing, do we? But what I would say, mate, is don't worry about that. That sounds like a pretty natural thing. Being totally yourself, regretting it, then recoiling. Why are you regretting it? What are you doing when you're totally yourself? Wading into people, giving them a neck punch like I just had in BJJ. It was an accidental neck punch, but it's never a good place to get punched the neck. Sarah Coles, giving up my bedtime weed smoke. Can't sleep without it. Well, it's tricky, mate. It's tricky to give that up. Is it causing you problems? I'm not here to judge you for your bedtime weed smoke, but if it's causing you problems, there are different ways of getting to sleep at night, and I would suggest listening to Jason Stevenson on YouTube. Very, very good videos he does on getting to sleep, and he's a very good meditation teacher. Lovely voice. Me and the missus love him. Okay, so that's some of your questions answered. I think it's become pretty clear to you by now that I believe that you should be couching your worldview, your personal spiritual development in a 12-step system. If you have some obvious chemical or behavioral addiction, you should look for groups that are available to support you. If you don't have them, remember, you can get in touch with me, Russell Brand. Have a look at my website. There's various ways you can reach out to me. If you want help, we're there to provide that help to you. If you want to volunteer and become part of these new systems, these new alternative systems, reach out to me. I cannot claim to have the answers or even the questions, but I do know it's not too late. So Extinction Rebellion, fantastic thing, needs to find new ways to reach out to everybody, and without spiritual awakening, we're all doomed. No political solution, no power solution without spiritual awakening. And the good news about that is it's something that you can achieve for yourself, by yourself, and you will know when it's coming because you will want to serve others. Thank you very much for joining me for this. Remember, if you are Extinction Rebellion, not Extension Rebellion, no one's rebelling about extensions. Yes, we are actually, because that extension's taking up a lot of resources. I support you, Extinction Rebellion. I understand the frustrations of people that are disrupted, and we have to find new ways of changing power dynamics and global policies that somehow demonstrate our cohesion, our togetherness. Where did that Gilets Jaunes yellow vest thing go? Where did Occupy go? We all want the same thing. We all want love, freedom, control over our own lives where possible, and to experience the joy and glory of being alive on this planet, which we are only briefly going to experience. So anyway, it's not too late. I'm Russell Brand. Thank you. Like this, share it, propagate this, because I would like it if this was successful. Though it actually doesn't matter now that I reflect on it, but do it anyway, and press that goddamn bell. Get your little phone dingling away in your lug hole. Why don't you chain yourself to this little device constantly? I just saw my little baby's face. All right, thanks.